In 2024, the Boston Celtics would finally put banner 18 up in the rafters. But how did they do this? After a long road of rumors of Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown breaking up, coaches getting fired, and personnel moving, the Celtics were finally able to win the NBA championship. But how did they do this? Well, today we're going to look at the long road the Celtics had to take to reach banner 18.
Thanks for having me back. I plan on re-signing here next year.
As bad as we all would like to see it work, they can't coexist.
And the Boston Celtics will go to the NBA Finals.
Season suspension. Sources tell ESPN that Udoka's role in a consensual, intimate relationship with a female staff member of the
We are going to go all the way back to the 2017 NBA draft, where the Boston Celtics would select Jason Tatum with the third pick, after trading down with the Philadelphia 76ers. The Celtics, who already had Jaylen Brown on their roster, didn't know that they would have their championship duo already. And in free agency, the Celtics would sign Gordon Hayward and trade for Kyrie Irving, trading Isaiah Thomas, Ante Zizic, and a few first-round picks to the Cleveland Cavaliers. With acquiring Marcus Morris as well, the Celtics were ready for the 2018 NBA season. The first game of the NBA season would see Gordon Hayward have a gruesome injury, but this injury might have been a blessing in disguise, as it was given more time for Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, more time on the floor. Now, despite losing Gordon Hayward, the Celtics would still finish second in the East, going on a 16-game winning streak in part of the season. And before the playoffs, the Celtics would learn that they would lose Kyrie Irving to a leg injury. But backup point guard Terry Rozier would be more than ready to step into that role. With losing Gordon Hayward and Kyrie Irving, many would think that the Celtics would be an easy first round out, as teams would intentionally try to lose games to match up with the Celtics. But the Celtics team was more than ready, as they would draw the Milwaukee Bucks in the first round and beat them in 7, and beat the Philadelphia 76ers in 5, in a really not close series. Now, it was time for the Eastern Conference Finals with LeBron James and the Cleveland Cavaliers. After a monster game for LeBron James in Cleveland to tie the series 3-3, it would be a Game 7 in Boston, as we see the Boston Celtics struggle from 3, as Terry Rozier would go 0 for 8 from 3 and Jaylen Brown struggling as well. Still, the Celtics were still in the game, as Jason Tatum would be a bright spot for the Boston Celtics, and he would show, even as a rookie, he could play in the bright lights, doing this.
Tatum drives down and throws it down. Wow! Smart to Tatum. Sets, fires, three-pointer. Bang!
Even with the stellar play of Jason Tatum, the Boston Celtics would still lose in 7 to LeBron James and the Cleveland Cavaliers. And after coming one game from the NBA Finals, it was disappointing, but there was a lot of optimism going into the next year, as the Young Guns would show they were more than ready to take on a larger role in the next season. In the 2018 NBA Draft, the Celtics would draft Robert Williams, a shot-blocking, high-flying center that would be pivotal for the championship aspirations going into the future. Kyrie Irving would also tell the Boston Celtics that he would re-sign with them in front of a crowd at TD Garden, something we'll get into later.
Thanks for having me back. I plan on re-signing here next year.
With the quiet offseason from the Boston Celtics, the thinking was, hey, this team just made it one game away from the NBA Finals, and we're getting back Kyrie Irving and Gordon Hayward. All we have to do is put it all together and we'll be a force in the East. But little did the Celtics know, the 2019 season would be nothing short of a nightmare.
Now says they're not likely to have home court advantage in any series. Our model gives them a 46% chance to be the 5th seed, the most likely outcome.
Well, Greeny, the Celtics, they haven't won since the All-Star break.
Everyone knows Kyrie is an issue.
Like one of those things where it's like we've had 5 players only meetings and things were said that were the right things, but I think like I said, it's just in one ear, right out the other. Like,
the 2019 season for the Boston Celtics will be plagued by chemistry issues and turmoil, as Gordon Hayward still struggling to come back from his knee injury, which showed that he was a little bit rusty, and Kyrie Irving not really gelling with the young guys, as young guys like Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, and Terry Rozier were frustrated with their role on this team. This team was just nothing short of a disaster. The Celtics still had the deepest team in the East. The thought was, if the Celtics could just put it together for the NBA playoffs, they can make some noise. Well, that wouldn't be the case. The Celtics would sweep the Indiana Pacers in the first round, but get destroyed by the Milwaukee Bucks in the next round, as poor play from Kyrie Irving and Jason Tatum will lead to their demise. And after, the offseason would be an offseason of many changes for the Boston Celtics. But little did they know, this offseason would really help them.
Kyrie Irving and DeAndre Jordan.
After Kyrie Irving would say that he would resign with the Boston Celtics, he would go back on his word and ghost the Boston Celtics and sign with the Brooklyn Nets. And if that wasn't bad, Al Horford would go to the 76ers. The Celtics just lost two key starters in their chase for a championship.
As a potential option for the Celtics.
Well, you're right, Jay, and this is what Boston is losing right here with Al Horford, Kyrie Irving, and possibly Marcus Morris. And what that does is that creates $25 million in cap space, and the odd man out would likely be Terry Rozier, who's a restricted free agent. And what we'll do is we'll take Rozier out. That bumps it up to $33 million, and that will give you, the potential for a max slot, and that's where Walker slides in.
The Celtics will land on their feet, signing Kemba Walker to a max deal. And now with Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, and still Gordon Hayward on this team, the Celtics would look to be taking a step back. But little do they know, the Celtics would be just fine.
You take Kyrie off, you put Kemba on, Tatum's blossomed. Jaylen Brown's blossomed. Gordon Hayward, when he's healthy, is playing well.
Ladies and gentlemen, Jason Tatum is 21 years old. My God, is he coming.
The 2021 season for the Boston Celtics will see the Celtics exceed expectations, as breakout seasons from Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, and along with Kemba Walker would happen. As we would see Jason Tatum make his first All-Star game and third-team All-NBA, along with Kemba Walker, who would also make the All-Star game. And we would see the Celtics finish fourth in the East. The vibes were totally different from last year's team, as this fun Celtics team were having fun sharing the ball and playing freely. And in the NBA bubble, the Celtics would sweep the Philadelphia 76ers and beat the Raptors in 7, but ultimately fall to the Miami Heat in 6 games. Still, with them losing Kyrie Irving but still almost making the NBA Finals, there was a lot of optimism on this team, as the stars with Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown and Kemba Walker, along with role players like Grant Williams, Robert Williams, and other good role players. The thought was, another year under Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, these guys would finally break through and make the NBA Finals. But the 2021 Boston Celtics will be nothing short of another disaster.
The Boston Celtics select Peyton Pritchard from the University of Oregon.
On the court, you can blame Kemba Walker.
About a team that's at 500. They should not be a 500 team. They should not be giving up 24-point leads from the third quarter on.
The 2021 season would see a quick turnaround from the NBA bubble to the NBA regular season, and teams that made it deep in the NBA bubble playoffs like the LA Lakers, the Miami Heat, the Denver Nuggets, and the Boston Celtics would get ravaged by injuries, as players were not given enough time to heal their injuries and heal their bodies, as multiple players from the Boston Celtics would get injured and get hit with COVID. And the Celtics would finish this disastrous season with a 36-36 record with a shortened 72-game season, only being a 7th seed in the East, having to play in the newly created play-in. But the play-in tournament would see Jason Tatum score 50 points, a play-in tournament record that will still hold to this day, And after the play-in tournament, we'll see the Celtics face the Brooklyn Nets with James Harden, Kevin Durant, and of course the former Celtic, Kyrie Irving. Games 1 and Games 2 were blowouts by the Brooklyn Nets, and in Game 3, Jason Tatum will wake up. He would score 50 points in a Game 3 victory, but it wouldn't be enough. The Boston Celtics were eliminated in 5 games by the Brooklyn Nets, and Kyrie Irving would stomp on the Celtics logo, showing major disrespect. This season would be the worst out of the Tatum and Brown era up until this point, and major changes were coming in the 2022 regular season. Major changes, with a season that would see the highest of highs and the lowest of lows. Welcome to the 2022 Boston Celtics. The 2022 Boston Celtics offseason will be filled with madness. Danny Ainge, the longtime GM of the Boston Celtics, would step away and go to the Utah Jazz, promoting head coach Brad Stevens to the GM role. This move would shock the NBA world because, well, I like Brad Stevens' coaching schemes, but what the hell does he know about a salary cap? It was a very confusing time for Celtics fans. But little did we know, Brad Stevens would become one of the greatest GMs in Celtic history. As knowing this team in and out, being a coach of this team for a long time, he would know what moves to make and what players to bring in. And one of his first moves, he would bring back longtime veteran Al Horford back to the Boston Celtics, trading Kemba Walker, and then hiring Ime Udoka as the Boston Celtics head coach. And now it was time for the 2022 regular season.
As bad as we all would like to see it work, they can't coexist.
Finds Barrett. Get a shot up. This is for the win. Oh! And the Boston Celtics will go to the NBA Finals.
The Celtics trading away Kemba Walker would mean Marcus Smart would step into the starting point guard role, and many would question, is he really the right guy for this team? And with rumors of breaking up Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown already starting, the Celtics would need to have a great regular season. The Celtics will start off the regular season flat, even being below 500 at some parts of the season. Hell, even not even being in the playoffs at some points in the season. The Celtics look horrible. The Boston Celtics were 18-21 after they would lose to the Knicks on a RJ Barrett game winner. This loss would be devastating, with the rumors of breaking up Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown louder than ever, and Coach Ime Udoka on the hot seat. But something would happen after this game. Maybe they realize, we have to get this together. Would it be sharpshooter Peyton Pritchard realizing he can help this team if he just picks his spots? Would it be Rob Williams realizing he'd become one of the best defenders and best shot blockers in this league? Would it be Marcus Smart realizing, hey, I know I'm the leader on this team, but I could become a defensive player of the year, but we need to get this together? Or would it be longtime veteran Al Horford realizing he might retire without an NBA championship? Or would it be the duo of Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, specifically Jaylen Brown, realizing, if I don't get this together, I may be looking for houses in Philly? Or would it be superstar Jason Tatum realizing, we can't have another year like last year. We can't have another mediocre year. Not in this city. They'll never let me live it down. Whatever it is, something clicked. The energy shifted. And the Boston Celtics were back. The Boston Celtics would go on a major winning streak, destroying teams in their paths, with Jason Tatum finally taking that leap into top 5 in the NBA, and Jaylen Brown improving his play as well. The two Jays also made strides in facilitating and becoming better leaders and making players around them better. Coach Ime Udoka finally had his grasp on this team, employing a defensive mentality. And with getting back big man Rob Williams, the Celtics were wreaking havoc on teams. And at the trade deadline, Brad Stevens would show he's actually a great GM. Yes, in a move that would fly under the radar, the Celtics would acquire Derek White from the San Antonio Spurs, and Derek White would make the Celtics even more stronger. At the time of the Knicks game, the Celtics were the 11th seed and will climb all the way to the 2nd seed. And at the time of January 29th, they were 25-25. and they would finish with a 51-31 record, meaning they went 26-5 over their last games. The Celtics were rolling and steamrolling into the playoffs. The Celtics would draw a familiar foe, the Brooklyn Nets, who they faced in last year's playoffs. This was a totally different Nets team, as James Harden would be gone, and it would be just Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant, and the Celtics would give Kevin Durant hell in this series. The Celtics would force Durant into his worst ever playoff series of his career up until this point. With Kevin Durant having his worst series ever, the Celtics would sweep the Brooklyn Nets, sending KD and Kyrie home packing. Next will be the Milwaukee Bucks, the defending champions at the time, without Chris Middleton. And after a 4-game split, the Celtics and Bucks will meet in a Game 5 where the Celtics would choke in a Game 5. And after that, all hope seemed lost. As Game 6 was in Milwaukee, the Celtics looked poised for a second-round exit. Could this really be the end of this season? Could the Celtics really not beat the Milwaukee Bucks without Chris Middleton? And if they can't beat them without Chris Middleton, when will they ever beat them? When will they ever make the finals? When will they ever make that step? These were the questions that were being asked. But Jason Tatum will pick the perfect time to have his
Tatum, step back, three-pointer. It's good! Jason Tatum with a masterpiece tonight. He's got 31.
Rhythm 3, kisses to the crowd, and then taps Bobby Portis on the rear, saying good job, not good enough.
Now 2. Smart looking. Tatum catches. Tatum shoots. Tatum scores! Gotta put it up. Step back, three-pointer. Bang!
as he would drop 46 on the road facing elimination, a masterclass performance, hitting clutch shot after clutch shot, not even touching rim, forcing the Celtics to win and forcing a Game 7. And in Game 7, it'll be role player Grant Williams having a big game as the Celtics is bash of the Milwaukee Bucks in 7 games. The Celtics will move on to face the Miami Heat in a tough 7-game series which will see the Celtics pull it out, finally making the NBA Finals, from the 11th seed to the 2nd seed to the NBA Finals. The Celtics were 4 games away from putting a cap on this incredible season, but in the NBA Finals, they would face Wardell Stephen Curry III, who was on a quest for his elusive Finals MVP, and he would not be denied. Despite poor play from Jason Tatum, it would be Jaylen Brown and Al Horford to bring the Celtics to a 2-1 lead in the NBA Finals. But after, disaster would strike. The Celtics would lose 3 straight games to the Golden State Warriors, losing the NBA Finals on their home court, as Stephen Curry would finally get his Finals MVP. A horrific and heartbreaking end to this regular season, but still, all in all, there was still optimism going into this next season. After making it through a gauntlet of the East and being 2 games away from a championship, the thought was another year under Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown's belt, and if they make it back to the NBA Finals, Jason Tatum will not play like how he played. And moving into the 2023 season, we'll see the Celtics eyeing redemption, but the Celtics maybe were eyeing redemption too much and looked too far ahead. But before the regular season, the Celtics would again have a major change.
Facing a likely full season suspension. Sources tell ESPN that Udoka's role in a consensual, intimate relationship with a female staff member of the Celtics is a violation of the guidelines for this franchise.
Ime Udoka was put on suspension for having an inappropriate relationship with a coworker in the Celtics organization, and that means Joe Mazzulla would step in as head coach of the Boston Celtics. A shock to the NBA world considering Ime Udoka was such a big part of the Boston Celtics returning to the NBA Finals, as he was a defensive-minded coach and bringing a toughness to his team that this team desperately needed. Moving forward, the Celtics would trade for Malcolm Brogdon, trading away Daniel Tice, Aaron Nesmith, and other players, bringing in Malcolm Brogdon from the Indiana Pacers. The thought was Malcolm Brogdon was a good point guard that can steady the pace of this team, and a team that turned over the ball quite a bit in the NBA playoffs last year. He would steady the pace and hopefully get this team over the hump. The Boston Celtics had all the pieces to run it back and possibly win an NBA championship. I guess we'll just have to wait and see.
Boston's the best team in basketball, Molly.
I believe the Sixers are just better than the Celtics because
the Heat are going to the NBA Finals.
The 2022 Celtics will start off at a historic pace, looking like the favorite in the East. But after the All-Star break, the Celtics will stumble, not looking like the team that started the season, and as the playoffs rolled around, the Boston Celtics would have some trouble. After taking 6 games to beat the lowly Atlanta Hawks, they would face the Philadelphia 76ers, where they would fall 3-2. In Game 6 in Philadelphia would see Jason Tatum be 1 of 14, but would finally wake up in the fourth quarter, scoring 16 points to force a Game 7. And in Game 7, he would break a Game 7 record by scoring 51 points in Game 7, dispatching of the Philadelphia 76ers. After dispatching of the Philadelphia 76ers, the Celtics would take the Miami Heat as a joke. Already playing down to their competition with Atlanta and some parts of the regular season, no way that the play-in tournament Miami Heat would beat the Celtics, but the Celtics were in for a grim reality. The Celtics would quickly fall down 3-0 to the Miami Heat, as the Celtics looked to have no answer for the Miami Heat. And the Celtics looked like they were about to get swept. But in miraculous fashion, the Celtics were able to win 2 straight. And then in Game 6 in Miami, they would win off of a Derek White game winner off of a putback layup. And before you know it, it would be a 7th game in Boston. And in Game 7 in Boston, Jason Tatum will injure his ankle minutes into Game 7 in Boston. And Jaylen Brown will have one of his worst games ever in the playoffs, turning it over constantly, having 8 turnovers. And the Miami Heat were the Eastern Conference champions, sending the Boston Celtics home in horrible and clownish fashion. After all that talk of getting back to the NBA Finals, the Celtics fell short, possibly looking too far ahead and having overconfidence. But believe it or not, this loss would force Brad Stevens into making major changes to the Celtic roster, as he could not bring the same roster back for next season, meaning some of the core players would have to go. In the 2024 offseason, Brad Stevens would go to work. He would trade for Kristaps Porzingis, trading away longtime veteran Celtic Marcus Smart, much to the chagrin of Celtics fans. And after the Milwaukee Bucks would trade for Damian Lillard, the Milwaukee Bucks would trade Drew Holiday to the Portland Trail Blazers, and the Trail Blazers would trade Drew Holiday to the Boston Celtics for Rob Williams, Malcolm Brogdon, and a couple first-round picks. And before you know it, the Celtics had a completely new team coming into the season. But this starting 5 would be the best starting 5 in the NBA. And if Tatum and Brown can't win with this roster, maybe it is time for them to split up. But the Boston Celtics would finally shut all their doubters and haters up in the 2024 playoffs.
I consider the Boston Celtics to be the favorites in the Eastern Conference.
It's over. Time to say it again, Boston. Anything's possible. Banner number 18 has been secured.
As the Boston Celtics would steamroll in the 2024 regular season, finishing with a 64-18 record. The first 60-win season of the Tatum and Brown era. And in the NBA playoffs, the Boston Celtics were ready. They would beat the Miami Heat in 5 games and beat the Cleveland Cavaliers in 5 games and sweep the Indiana Pacers in a tough 4-game sweep series and would make it back to the NBA Finals, where they would face the Dallas Mavericks. Games 1 and 2 in the NBA Finals would see the Boston Celtics blow out the Mavericks, as Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, Kristaps Porzingis, Derek White, and Al Horford would all have big games and contribute, along with Sam Hauser and Peyton Pritchard, shutting down Luka and Kyrie Irving. But in Game 2, they will lose Kristaps Porzingis to a freak injury, meaning Game 3 will be without Kristaps Porzingis. Games 3 will see the duo of Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. Jason Tatum will have a big first half, and Jaylen Brown will close the deal, having a big second half, as the Boston Celtics will go up 3-0 in the NBA Finals. And after the Mavericks would take Game 4, it would set up a date, Game 5 in Boston, as Jason Tatum would have a big Game 5, scoring 31, 8, and 11, dispatching of the Dallas Mavericks and finally putting Banner 18 up into the rafters, and finally, the Boston Celtics were NBA champions. Jaylen Brown will be named the Finals MVP with his big shot in Game 3 and his defense on Luka Doncic. Finally, after all the turmoil, after all the criticism, after all the rumors, after all the coaching changes, after all the personnel, the Boston Celtics were finally NBA champions. And now we're here today, the Boston Celtics, the second seed in the East, right below the Cleveland Cavaliers, look primed to defend their title, as Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown has taken major steps into becoming complete players, as Jaylen Brown has taken on a pride of defense, facing up against the best guards in the NBA, and taking on a leadership role with the Boston Celtics, and Jason Tatum developing as a passer, a rebounder, and just becoming a more complete player, and developing more as a leader. These are where the Boston Celtics stand, as Peyton Pritchard has become the favorite for Sixth Man of the Year, becoming instant offense off the bench, with Derek White becoming a sniper from 3, with Al Horford being a consummate professional and a great leader for this team, with a guy like Kristaps Porzingis, a 7-foot sniper and a game changer for this team going into the playoffs, with a guy like Drew Holiday, a defensive-minded guard who can still give you some offense, and with a coach like Joe Mazzulla developing more and more into a great coach, this Celtics team looks primed to repeat again. Let me know what other teams you would like to see me do in the comment section. Like, comment, and subscribe. I'm your boy D. This is Maybe Next Year. I'm out. Peace.